Grand day, everyone. I'm your host, Paul Lawrence Band. I'm host of Wealth Academy Podcast and glad that you could be with us today. We have an amazing guest today by the name of Alana Sharp, and I want to introduce you to her and let her welcome here. And Alana, how are you doing today, my friend?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. We're glad to have you here. And for all of our guests who are listening, people who are watching, we just want to welcome you to this episode. And you're really going to learn a lot because Elena has a lot to share, a lot of expertise. And I'm just glad to be along for the journey with her. But before we get started, I want to share a bit about her bio and then we'll move forward. So thank you so much for being with us today. Alana Sharps is the CEO and founder of Thrive Tribe. She is a certified high conflict divorce and child custody consultant and best-selling author of the book, Was It My Fault? So, Alana, glad to have you here again. A wonderful day. I hope that you're doing good and we're ready to go.
Thank you.
Okay. Elena, life in and of itself is beautiful. What was your childhood like when you were growing up? Do you have siblings? And what was your parents' guiding principles in your family? If you mind sharing that with us.
I am actually an only child. So I am,
Yay!
yes, I am the oldest and the youngest.
Okay, I like that.
And my parents instilled in me to respect my elders and spend time with family because you never know that day that you spend time with them will be the last time that you see them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of like when someone is going away on a trip, you want to make sure you get an extra hug in there and wish them well, travel mercies, because we just don't know sometimes. But those are wonderful principles. And being the only child, ooh, I wonder what that's like.
When you're young, I did
Being-
not like it as a child. I didn't have anybody to play with or talk to, but as I got older, I loved it.
Oh, I understand. I'm one of 10, so you know what I'm talking about. The opposite. Now, I want to let people know that there's so many amazing things about you. You're gifted and talented. And one of the things that I found out that I'm really impressed with, and I know the listeners and watchers will be as well, is that you are an engineer. So please share what your journey was like earning your engineering degree, because that's just a wonderful discipline to have.
Yes. So there's a backstory to that. I
All right.
actually wanted to be an astronaut.
Oh,
And when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to apply for and get accepted into a program called SHARP. It's the
okay.
Summer High Apprenticeship Research Program. And
Okay.
it was offered at NASA in Greenbelt, Maryland. And every summer, starting in my sophomore year of high school, I would go to NASA and work on a project.
Okay.
My very first mentor, my first summer at NASA, I shared with him that I wanted to be an astronaut. And he said, well, you need to become an engineer.
Ah.
So that started me down the path of obtaining my mechanical engineering degree.
Wonderful. That is just so amazing. You and I had shared earlier that I started out in engineering as well, and I had to get a job. So my time allotment went away, but it was what I started with, and then I moved over to the business side. But I know engineering is just really wonderful, and working where you were, interning where you were, was also, I'm sure, a wonderful experience as well.
I loved it. I moved around to the different areas every summer. I learned so much. It was a great opportunity.
Yes, yes, that's wonderful. And Elena, you help women navigate the family court process. It isn't something most people are familiar with, and it isn't something we're educated about ourselves. Now, during your post-separation experience, you had to go it alone. What was the greatest challenge for you, and what you believe it is for women today?
The greatest challenge for me was that no one understood what I was going through. I was going through what we call today post separation abuse, which is legal abuse, financial abuse, and no one understood. My attorney didn't understand, my friends and family didn't understand. So I felt very alone during the process. Once I got through my child custody situation, I decided to become that person that I needed so much in my own legal battle. And
Yeah.
that's why I chose to get certified as a high conflict divorce and child custody consultant. I got educated on the legal system and how it works. I got educated on different high conflict personality disorders. Now I offer emotional as well as strategic support to people going through similar situations.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I know for many of the women, especially when they're going through that post-separation, that it's a very scary, when we hear the words court and having to go to court, it really is intimidating for a lot of people, for men and women. But I know for women, it's got to be tough, especially if they happen to have children as well.
That's exactly right. And court is something you don't understand or know how to navigate unless you're in it. So you're in undefined territory. And like you said, if you're discussing something in court that has to do with your children, it's very emotional for you. And you have to learn to deal with the emotion because court is not emotional. Court is about laws
Yes.
and facts.
Yes.
So I help my clients to let's focus on the facts and what we have evidence for in order to get our cases resolved.
Yes, yes. And I think in many ways, as you stated with the courts, it's not anything personal. They're the defense, and then there's prosecutors, and everyone is trying to win. Right?
Yes.
But the people who should be winning should be the people who have been defended. People should be able to have that type of support that they need. And sometimes it's not what we call equitable, in court. So a lot of that emotion is taken away, and it puts a lot of pressure, especially in a post-separation environment as well. So thank you for sharing that. So when it comes to what do you want to share with parents about the impact separation has on children, and why is it important for people to keep the children as priority one during this challenging phase of the process?
So I work with a very specialized group of people. I'm working with survivors of psychological abuse.
Mhm.
So when they come to me, they are still going through their trauma, they're stressed, depressed, they feel defeated and powerless, and they're going through post separation abuse. So I stress to them the need for self care, the need to focus on their children and build up their mental strength because not only do they need to be a strong support system for their children that are in the middle of this battle, but they also need to build up their strength for the length of the battle. These cases are not, done overnight. Some of them can span 3 to 5 years, depending on how much conflict that high conflict opposing party wants to bring into the situation. So I stress, support your kids, but also support yourself as well, because if mom and dad is not good, then we can't be a good parent to our children.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so what happens is there's so many cases, I guess, in the family practice area and other areas as well in the court, that it really becomes a grind. If we're looking at 3 to 5 years in some cases, and some probably even longer.
Yeah.
So, and then of course we have to hope that the other party, the male in that party, that they have a little bit of sanity working with them, so that things won't get out of hand. So I guess when we look at it, there are two parties there, from a parent perspective. When you look at just an example of most of the time in the male, is a male typically trying to get the children, being responsible for them, custody, etc.
Yes, and they typically go to extremes. So you have a male that is trying to get 100% custody of the children. They want to completely strip the custody away from the mother, but they don't have grounds to do that. But,
Right.
that's what they're trying to do. That's what they're filing for.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So, Alana, what was the driving force for you making the decision to become a high conflict divorce and child custody consultant? If you could share kind of that backstory and how it all came about for you, because I know it's not something that a lot of people, again, are aware of, but how did it position you to do what you do today?
Right. So, because I was emotionally distraught, didn't understand the family court system when I went through my own child custody case, and I was brought into a situation where my ex was filing parental alienation claims against me. They were false.
Mm-hmm.
He threw the allegation out there, but I was so emotionally distraught by it. I couldn't sleep. I was stressed. It's like, how can he say that and the court not care about it? He doesn't have evidence. Like, I went through all of those feelings because I was still in my trauma.
Uh-huh.
And no one understood. I felt like my attorney didn't understand, my friends didn't
Sure.
understand. So no one could support me. And it
Uh-huh.
is the worst feeling in the world. And so I wanted to become an educator of what goes on in these type of family court cases, because these are
Sure.
considered high conflict, and
Right.
be that support system for people like me. And I have a
Right.
lot of clients on the docket right now. I have a client after we do this podcast. So
Sure.
I
Okay.
am busy supporting others. So there's definitely a need for people like me out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you looked at it from that fact that he did not have the facts to go with it, or the proof documentation to go with it, then how does the court respond? That does it has to run its course, or do they have he has to prove what he's saying? How did yeah?
It either runs its course, or you
Uh-huh.
go through the negotiation stage where the
Sure.
allegations go away. And that is something I did not know or understand, but that's what I learned as I went through my process.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. And I'm primarily asking because I know people who are watching or who will listen on the archive, they'll be kind of having that idea. Okay, what does she do? How can I help myself do it as well? But I think it's very important that a woman, and especially one who has children, that they do have representation. They have legal representation, a lawyer, attorney, because they can't necessarily go it alone.
That is correct. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, there are people out there that cannot afford representation, and they
right.
try to represent themselves.
Mhm.
Some people are successful at it. Some people,
Sure.
unfortunately, lose their kids in a lot of those situations.
Exactly. Yeah. That's just tough sledding. Tough, tough. Okay, so thank you for sharing additional information on that. And now we're going to talk about this very special item here, your book, a
Yeah.
best-selling book. Was it my fault? Let's talk about your book in terms of what was the foundation for writing it and the message that you want your audience to take from it.
So my book actually started out as therapeutic journals that I was
Mhm.
writing to heal myself from my psychologically abusive marriage. I had a
Sure.
ton of things in my head that I just needed to get out and get down on paper. So I
Uh-huh.
started telling my story from beginning to end. And when
Okay.
I started opening up to friends and family about what occurred in my marriage, I started getting responses like, I have a friend that's going through that, or have a family member that's going through that. How did you get out? What did you do to heal? All of these questions. So I decided to just use my story as a model to share with others,
Uh-huh.
and also as a guide to help people safely get out of the situations. So I take you through the cycle of abuse through my story, and I've
Okay.
strategically placed red flags throughout the book to show you the signs of abuse that I missed to help
Sure.
educate others.
Yes. And one of the key words is narcissism, correct?
Correct.
Yes. If you can share more about that.
Yes. So when we say narcissism, we're talking about someone that manipulates, emotionally controls, and gaslights to control another person, eroding that person's self esteem and autonomy.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And then where can people get your book? I know we have your website here, and if people want to reach out to learn more, we have your email here as well. And then you have courses as well. Let's talk some about the courses, if we will.
Yes, my first course is a survivor empowerment guide, and
Mhm.
it is a course on bringing back your power, right? Bringing
Yes,
back your self esteem, basically rebuilding yourself and putting you on the path to
mhm,
empowerment after you
mhm.
have gone through a psychologically abusive relationship.
Yes, that's fantastic. And they can see it there because you have one course that's free.
Yes.
And then you have some courses that people can also get to help them along their journey.
That is
Yeah.
exactly right. The free course is for people to understand the signs of abuse, because when you talk about psychological abuse, a lot of
Right.
people don't know what that looks like.
Uh-huh.
And so I have a free course on my website where you can read through and take an assessment at the end to see if you may be in a relationship where you're being psychologically abused.
Okay. Fantastic. Now, you also participated in a rally at the North Carolina legislature in
I
my
do.
home state. If you could share what that experience was like, and the audience that was there, and how how would you able to be involved in that process and help make a difference there?
Yes, I am an advocate in the state of North Carolina. And so I participated in Jesse's Rally for Change. And it
Uh-huh.
is to stress the need for coercive control laws in North Carolina to protect victims experiencing post separation abuse during their child custody cases, as well as require family court officials to get more training on what the signs of coercive control look like in the legal system, because they show up as legal abuse a lot of times. And when I say legal abuse, that's when the high conflict personality is constantly filing motions against you or
Okay.
constantly taking you to court for things that end up being settled.
Yeah.
So that is legal abuse.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's me.
Yes. And very costly. Family court is
Yeah.
not cheap.
Yeah, that's the part that I was looking at, because again, when legislation is taking place, or justice is taking place, there is a monetary cost associated with that, which in many cases a lot of people don't have.
Correct.
Either both of them or one of them, and in the long run, you really never get it back, if you will. But I guess what we have to hope for and hold on to is that we get the results that we want, that the women get the results that they want, and that they're able to get their children as well. So that's very important. Now, when you looked at there at the North Carolina State Legislature, uh, could you share a little bit about? I think you said it was Jesse. What was law?
Jesse's Law.
Law. Yeah. Could you share a
Mhm.
little bit more about that?
Yes, so that would the law itself is asking for coercive control laws in North Carolina so that it
Okay.
recognizes emotional abuse that's occurring in child custody battles. It's not
Okay.
recognized today. We only recognize really physical abuse, but there
Right.
are other types of abuse out there that we're trying
Gotcha.
to get laws passed for.
Right. Yeah. And then, of course, there's that application of mental health that's associated with it as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have been in a relationship where you have chronically been psychologically abused, on the
Hmm.
high end of the spectrum, you can develop complex post traumatic stress disorder. So
Gotcha.
there are physical and mental impacts to this type of abuse.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's going to help people. I know it's going to help. Now, you also, Elena, you also have what you call the Sir Thrive community.
Yeah.
Um, how does that shift the atmosphere for your community, the people that you support and who follow you? If you can share more about that as well.
It is a community of survivors. So we celebrate each other's wins, we validate each other's feelings, and we help each other in difficult co parenting situations or child custody situations if we're still in the legal system. We provide advice on what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and we give
Cool.
suggestions to the people that need it. So it's just really a support community of survivors.
Okay. And they can also people can learn more about this off of your website as well.
Yes.
Okay. Do
Yes.
you have a blog there, or
Sorry.
do you have a blog there, or there's just a community they can sign up on your website or a Facebook page, something of that nature?
Yes, I have a Facebook group. It's called
Okay.
Divorce and Parenting with a Narcissist.
Okay. Fantastic. That's really great. That's really great. Now, Elena, you are a speaker as well. Please share your target audience, what you can provide them to your target audience. If someone were to decide, hey, today I heard Elena on this podcast with Paul, and I would like to bring her to speak. Uh, Please share what you provide for that audience, for the target market.
My platform is to spread awareness about psychological abuse and its impacts, and also to say that we don't need to be stuck in what our past circumstances are. You can be empowered, you can thrive and live a fulfilling life. That is why I came up with Sir Thrive Tribe, to say, hey, yes, this happened to me, but I also rebuilt myself and now I'm thriving. And that is my message when I speak.
Okay, great, great. Now you provide coaching,
I do. Yes.
consulting, then you have your courses, you have your book, and then you speak. You're doing it all.
I'm doing it all.
And that's great. That's great. Now, you also have clients that are outside the state of North Carolina as well.
Yes, I am all across the nation.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. And again, when we look at what you're sharing, a lot of that was in the state of North Carolina, looking at, for example, the North Carolina state laws. Of course, they would differ from another state, but it's still very similar
Yes.
based on how the state runs
Right.
their laws.
Laws may be different, but the process that we use to come up with the strategy for everyone's case is the same. And these personalities are
Sure.
all the same. They all behave
Yeah.
the same in a legal setting.
Okay. Well, I tell you, I learned a lot today, and I know that the viewers have as well on this live stream. And one of the things that I want to talk about is if you can share some inspiration for people who are listening at this time, and that would assist them in moving forward uh, during their separation and moving forward past that.
Sure. So my message is, anyone who is depressed, stressed, anxious about their current situation, there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
Lean on your support system, whether that is family and friends or a coach such as myself, to help guide you on the road to empowerment. Once you feel empowered, you will be on the path to achieving everything that you ever wanted in life.
Yes, fantastic. Well, I'll tell you, I learned a lot. I know that the listeners who are listening live will, and those on the archive as well. And one of the things that I do want to say is that I want people to share this with their family, their friends, their colleagues as well, because what Alana Sharps is all about is helping make a difference, a positive difference in communities, empowering women in addition to their children, and also the community they live in as well, because we all live in a community, so we want to make that positive difference. And Elena, she's doing that for sure. Also, Elena, you also have your books. They're also out there on Amazon.com as well, correct?
Correct. Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
Mhm.
anywhere you purchase books online, you can find my book.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Well, what I want people to do is get out here on these podcast sites, wherever you get your podcasts. For me, you can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcast, you'll be able to listen to Elena's her particular interview today. And this is episode number 260. I want you to go out there and rate and review it. Give it a 5-star rating, because her content is that good, because her content makes a difference. Her content is actually life-saving. And since it's life-saving and empowering, it's a light that you want to follow because it shines so bright. My time is up, and I thank you for yours. And Elena, I want to thank you for being our honored guest today. And I really want people to learn more about you and about your book. I'm going to put your book up one last time just so people can get this in their memory. Again, it's titled What Was It My Fault by Alana Sharps. It's a best-selling book and something that you should get to learn more legal process and how to help people. Again, reclaim your life, build a brighter path forward, and it will make a tremendous difference. So, Elena, thank you so much for being the honored guest today. And I look forward to interviewing you again in the future. But thank you so much for your presence on this day.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, have a great day, everyone. And again, thank you so much. Get out there and rate and review Elena Sharp's interview today and give her a 5-star rating. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Right.